hammered. And there was one point in time, and when we talk about functional fitness, you're the functional fitness professional, you're the functional movement professional. When we talk about functional exercises, Travis Mash always said something in regards to, football players. Unless you're laying on the ground and pushing someone off of you, a bench press does not carry over to being athletic. For sure. So, but there is doing push presses. There is doing other explosive movements that are
they're transferable to the field.
Yeah, and to mobility. They promote positive mobility.
Yeah. Overhead movements generally are self-corrective. Mm-hmm. If I can't get into the overhead position, then I got a problem. Mm-hmm. Why can't I? And then you go from there. Maybe he has tight pecs. Maybe he's got a really weak supraspinatus, something like that. But yeah, overhead movements generally self-corrective. We've been doing single arm bottoms up presses in the gym. Mm-hmm. You take a kettlebell, you actually turn it upside down, hold it by the handle. Yes. You have to actively squeeze the handle, which gets your entire shoulder more engaged rather than just holding a bar. Fat grip exercises are great for the same thing. It gets the entire shoulder engaged. Mm-hmm. But once again, if you have a major problem, if you already have something going on there, like a possible tear, it's not necessarily going to fix the problem.
Right. Yeah, and also to go back to, I think, something that you said, buddy, and as an archery coach, I mean, my biggest... oh my gosh, it goes through me like nails on a chalkboard, is when people draw their bow, shoot, and you can tell that the weight's too heavy. They draw their bow, and for listeners, they can't see this. And they do a real high arc. They bring that bow up, and they sky draw, and they bring that elbow down across their pectoral muscle, and they use their rotator, their tricep, and their lats to try to pull this bow back. Yeah. And there's one of the educators from USA Archery, Doc McCune, he always discussed that when your shooters do that, get them away from it as soon as possible. And maybe you can help, explain this. The way he explained it to us was, your shoulder is meant to move a specific direction. That being this, what would it be, a counterclockwise motion if you're looking at, right? This way. When you go this way, it actually
rotating
the internal. It re-lubricates the shoulder when you do this.
It's the same as if you ever go to open up a door. No one turns internally. The door handles are not made to turn internally. They turn clockwise for a reason, because that's how our shoulders build. If you imagine if you went up to a doorknob and it would turn the other way, that's super awkward. It doesn't even feel good.
Yeah, no, that is super awkward. Can you think of it?
Well, what'll happen there is that when the smaller muscles that stabilize the shoulder become weaker, and in a lot of people, especially if they have desk jobs or they don't do a lot of physical activity or exercise or workouts, their upper back muscles will get weak. So the rhomboids are between the shoulder blades, so they can't stabilize that scapula, the shoulder blade, to their rib cage. So then what has to happen instead is they'll start to substitute other muscle groups. So these larger groups like the lats will take over. And some people, the upper traps, you'll see them kind of shrug a little bit. I don't know if you see that at all when they do the archery, when they draw back the bow.
Probably a lot of female athletes. Yeah, very trap dominant.
Yeah, very much.
And it's just a lot of men are trap dominant as well. But the rotator cuff muscles aren't as strong as they need to be. The scapular or the shoulder blade stabilizers aren't as strong as they be, so you'll see that substitution. Yeah. And these are the same people that come in to see me. They'll say my neck hurts all the time because they're constantly using the upper traps, which are a neck muscle, to tilt your head left and right and turn it left and right. But what the traps shouldn't do is they're not a shoulder muscle, or they shouldn't be a shoulder muscle. But when people are in the gym, you probably see people throwing away too much weight, and they end up engaging those upper traps. And the lat should be engaged a little bit, but in the case of the bow draw, I think it's their upper back muscles get weak. Yeah. So like upright rows would be something good to help that out. And just actually before you do all that, just working the rotator cuff exercises. There's plenty of exercises. I'm sure you go online and type in YouTube rotator cuff specific exercise. That's the bands.
And
or that's like 3 to 5 pounds or less.
type stuff.
So if you're looking at an exercise and they're using 20, 30 pounds, we're not working the rotator cuff anymore. We're working some of the larger muscles. So that's all the banded exercise. And you'll see a lot of programs, especially for pitchers and for baseball players. There's some great rotator cuff programs within those.
So, and from an archery standpoint, for people who are listening, it's important to understand where proper fit and form come in with your bow. I would say, in my opinion, in my professional opinion, and this statement actually also came from USA Level 4 coach Larry Wise. He said 85%, and Larry, if you were exaggerating, I apologize, but I'm quoting you. He said like 85% of the people who he would see shooting at the Lancaster Archery Classic are actually a smidge short in their draw length. So think about when your bow doesn't fit right, so you're not able to keep a good posture, and it's the same starting position when we're doing a back squat, when we're doing a front squat, heels under the hips or just outside the shoulder width apart, but you're still, everything's engaged, you're standing tall.
You're in an athletic
when
position.
You draw, it's an athletic position. When you draw, you raise to draw, and you are joint on joint on joint, and everything's supposed to be draw, fit, head doesn't move. But if you watch people, and like I said, I watch hundreds and hundreds of videos on archery online with some of the competitors in OAC and some others. They draw back, and the first thing they do is they come forward. They creep forward like this.
Yeah.
And then or if they're not creeping forward, in order for me to get to that because my draw is too short, they come forward this way. They collapse. Yeah. Well, if I do this, I can't engage my back. I can't engage my rhomboids. How am I holding that weight?
Yeah.
Or they're doing this, and they take the bow arm, if you're right, and they unlock that bow arm. They try to hold it this way.
Yeah.
So I'm holding weight here, and I'm still short.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hot mess.
There's no support.
And if people
high
shoot,
tension.
It's under high tension. And if you shoot that way for long periods of time, like if you are, guys go to the gym, they go to the Globo gym, they're like, I'm going to do deadlifts. That's right, you can't do deadlifts in Global gyms.
Some of them can. Some of them can.
But they're crowning their back, and they have real shitty form.
Yep.
You do a repetitive movement the wrong way for long periods of time, and what happens? We get hurt.
Yeah.
Or you train and reinforce a bad movement pattern. I mean,
or exactly.
Especially
train
all
to
the gyms
reinforce
they have
bad movement
mirrors.
pattern. Archery's no different.
And look at good form. You should, if you're doing curls, you should have the shoulders back, scapula kind of pinned
Big
back where they should be in
chest,
neutral. And then do the curls that way if you're going to sit there in front of the mirror and do curls.
Right, so you shouldn't do curls with 45-pound weights with your shoulders shrugged in front of you just to try to look cool.
If you're in the squat rack.
Very few people are strong enough to do 45-pound curls correctly.
Wait, say that again, because some people are going to have to hear it more than once.
Yes. Very few people, unless you're talking a very strong gentleman, are strong enough to do a straight, isolated curl with 45-pound dumbbells correctly. Very few.
Well, that's the same person that does it in the squat rack. So
typical.
There's a few people out there that will get that little joke.
So train proper movement, train proper posture, and reinforce that proper posture so that when you're doing other things, it'll be more automatic.
So when I'm standing in a tree stand and it's 20 degrees outside, and I have a 180-inch Booner whitetail, definitely not in Schuylkill County if it's 180 inches where we're at in Pennsylvania, but in front of me, I can actually rely on semi-muscle memory, but proper movements to make a good shot. Not rely on while I'm under tension, under duress, under stress, I have anxiety, and then have to duplicate improper movements under rough conditions to make the right shot.
Yeah, because you're already a bad mover to begin with. And
you're already
even
bad
worse.
I'll do you one better. Now that buck's ready to walk out from behind the tree, you draw back, and you have high tension because that lead arm's bent a little bit, and you're not engaging the back, and now he stops behind that tree.
And you have to hold it.
You have to
You're
hold.
sitting there holding
What are you going to hold it with?
Sweating bullets.
Yeah, so you're going to be a lot more efficient if you do it the right way.
So many people, and that's why you guys. That's why we've had this discussion, and why I wanted you guys to come on here, because I can tell people till I'm blue in my face. Listen, your draw's too short, your form's off. You know, you're not in a good position. Your anchor point's too high. Your inside shoulder's up because your draw length's too short.
They probably can't even breathe correctly when they're in that kyphotic, broke down position.
No, absolutely not. And well, most people, I'll be honest with you, I would say a very, very high percentage of archers don't even think about how they breathe at full draw. They're more concerned about getting the pin on and punching the trigger, or the thumb release, or however it is that they shoot. I mean, and it's it's a notorious problem in the archery world, and people it goes unseen, unnoticed, unmentioned, because there's just not people talking about it.
Well, one thing I would say, just to take a step back there, is we said and discussed, if you have an injury or you have pain problem, like seek someone that can help you as like a professional.
Yeah.
Same thing with the coaching, whether it's fitness or archery. If you really want to do yourself good and also do the archery community and the fitness community good, go seek a professional.
Yes.
Right, because both people win in the long run when it goes that, because it's a good relationship. You're getting years of experience from someone like Frank or someone like Buddy helping you out with what you're trying to achieve, whatever it is, whether it's, a 50-yard shot that you want to make, and not to mention be pain-free.
Yeah, pain is never normal. A lot of people put up with a lot of pain, but pain is never normal.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can work through it depending on what it's caused by. You tweak your shoulder here or there, no problem. But if it's there, especially for more than going on a week or two, what will happen is your body, again, will try to compensate around that, but you're going to develop poor movement patterns, and you're just going to screw yourself in the long run. So get it checked out. Try to work it out. Get it assessed. And a lot of people, I talk to these people all the time. They'll put it off for months and months and months. Some cases, years. In extreme cases, decades. They'll come in to see me. It'll be something simple, like bicipital tendonitis. We do 1 or 2 treatments on it, and it's great. It's gone. And for years, then they work around it and they compensate for it when they didn't have to. So I know probably a lot of the listeners are males, and we're stubborn as hell. And we never want to go to see anyone for anything, whether it's a mechanic or a doctor or whatever. We're too busy. But just bite the bullet and get in there and get yourself checked out.
So I think we definitely, and we have 18 minutes left. I think we've definitely covered the topic in regards to Mike's problem with his shoulder, some exercises he can do. And when I post this to the Facebook page, I can share some links that you guys provide that trustworthy links of some of the stuff we discussed.
For sure. There's plenty of good resources out there.
Something else that I think that now let's get away from the injury side. Let's get to the mobility side. And this is stuff that obviously the three of us are familiar with, but the muscle manipulation, the lacrosse balls, the banded work, the mobility work. My resource that I obviously always use is Kelly Sarrett. I don't know about you guys if you know something else.
He does a real good job with that stuff. He's got the mobility wad. He's got tons. I think he did a year straight. I think he bet his friend he can do 365 videos in a row daily. And I think he ended up doing like 380 or 400 or something like that. So
tons of free content.
Tons of great stuff on there. So
free content.
Totally important. Free. He has a paid service now, which is probably just as great. I haven't gotten in to see it, but he's always provided a lot of valuable information on his free podcast or his free videos. Mm-hmm. But especially if you're not injured, if you don't have pain, that's the time when to really get in there and start working some of these mobility issues and test yourself out. That's the great thing about his videos is he goes in and says, hey, try to get into an overhead position. If you can't do it, check these areas. Use the lacrosse ball. Use the voodoo band. Use other techniques to get in there and try to work those areas out. Do that before you end up with an injury, before you end up with pain.
So, and then a lot of people that, like you said, pain is never normal. If you have pain, let's see someone professional, find out what it is, and there's probably a good chance that it's something simple. Mm-hmm. Now, as we get older, and archers are notorious for this, as we get older, shoulders go bad or whatever happens, and then they switch. They're like, man, I really want to shoot my compound, I really want to shoot my recurve, but I got to go to a crossbow. Mm-hmm. And I have absolutely no problems with going to a crossbow. I think crossbows are wonderful. I think they serve purpose in the archery community. They are not for me, but they are for my 10-year-old, or they might be for my 70-year-old uncle or whatever. Yeah. And so the mobility side of archery, which I'm willing to bet that more than 95% of the bow hunters out there do nothing with.
Right.
They don't understand what a warm-up is. They don't understand why they should stretch after the warm-up.
Well, a lot of your archers probably don't look at their endeavor as an athletic endeavor.
No, and they should.
Because it is a sport.
Absolutely.
And you're using your body, to send a projectile.
Yep, absolutely.
And you say pain is we said pain is never normal, but the absence of pain doesn't mean it's normal either. So you got to get in there and look at what is your range of motion. That's what I like a lot about CrossFit is, and a lot of people knock it because people go and they end up with some shoulder pain perhaps, or they end up with some low back and hip pain. But it's because their mobility sucks.
Yeah.
So they go in there, they do an overhead press, and they say, "Ow, that makes my shoulder hurt." They come in and see me. They get a little bit of tendonitis.
Yeah.
And so I always tell them at this point you have two options. One is you can continue to hide from that limitation,
Yeah.
or we can fix it.
Yeah.
And we can put you back into the activity.